Welcome back, everybody, to episode 9 of the CG Sports Podcast. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 7 NFL predictions. So, just to start, the teams with bye weeks this week is going to be the Baltimore Ravens, the Indianapolis Colts, the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings. So, let's jump straight into it with our Thursday night game between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Giants, of course, as we saw, got their first win against the Washington football team, who they actually only beat by 1 point, and it was a pretty close game. So, better game than I expected between those two. Eagles, on the other hand, lost a close game to the Ravens. Ravens only beat them out by about 2 points, so Eagles did not disappoint. They didn't play too bad, but Eagles, on one hand, of course, expecting Lane Johnson and Deshaun Jackson to return this week, and I think this could be a sort of a experiment game for the Eagles. I mean, I would expect to see a lot more of their backup quarterback in Jalen Hurts. We saw a little bit of him in Baltimore just to kind of, get a rhythm and get some momentum for the team. So I think we could be seeing more of him, a lot more snaps from him, just because the Giants aren't really a team that they're going to be expecting to lose to. So I wouldn't doubt that they kind of experiment, try some new things, and just see how things work out. Giants still playing with tons of injuries, including their main weapons on offense in Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley, and I think they're going to have continued struggles offensively. I think the Eagles' D-line is going to put a ton of pressure on Daniel Jones, just as Washington did last week with Chase Young and Ryan Kerrigan. And I think the Eagles are going to bounce back from a tough loss and put another one in the win column. Eagles win this one 23-16. Moving on to our Sunday game, starting off with the Panthers and the Saints. Panthers, of course, lost to the Bears last week in a very close game. Bears got a huge stop on the final drive off a interception. Great game, too. I believe 23-16. Bears won that one. Saints coming off their bye week, so had a lot of time to rest. Those injured guys had time to train and ease themselves back in. Panthers without Christian McCaffrey once again, but as we spoke about in yesterday's episode, he could be back as soon as Week 8. Saints, on the other hand, also expect Michael Thomas to play this Sunday. I know we haven't seen too much of him, but they do expect him to play. Overall, I think we're going to see another solid performance from Teddy Bridgewater and company on that offense, Robbie Anderson, all those guys, but I don't think it's going to be enough this week to beat out Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Jared Cook, all those guys, Kamara, they're going to make the most of a weak Panthers defense, and the Saints are going to win this one 27-23. Next game, we got the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets, the New York matchup that we see twice a year. This is the second time. Bills last week lost to the Chiefs on Monday night. Jets, on the other hand, got shut out 24-0 against the Dolphins last week. I think this game is going to be pretty much identical to Week 1 in the fact that the Bills are going to dominate from start to finish. I'd expect 3 touchdowns from Josh Allen. I expect him to spread the ball out as he always does. For the Jets, I think Darnold is going to manage to put in a touchdown this week, which he was unable to do last week. But I think this week, going to put a touchdown on the board, but Bills are going to win this one 31-10. Next game, we've got the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. Browns lost a horrendous game to the Steelers last week where they lost 38-6. Just all around horrible game for them. And the Bengals, as we saw, lost a close one to Rivers and the Colts where they actually looked pretty good up until Phillip Rivers turned up in the last 6 minutes of the game. So Nick Chubb once again out today for the Browns, which will be another big loss for them. But I think the Bengals, despite having great QB play from Joe Burrow, really haven't had anything else to show for the last 6 weeks besides managing to get a tie. That's the only thing I really saw. I mean, they did get their 1 win, but, we haven't really seen much out of them. I think the Browns are going to take this one easily. Baker and Odell both had bad games last week. I would look for those two to make comeback games tonight, and they're going to look to prove themselves. So I think Joe Burrow will have early success in this game, but I think he's going to give this one up in the second half. Browns win this one 30-17. Next game, we got the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. Cowboys lost on Monday night to Arizona and looked absolutely horrible without Dak Prescott. Washington, as we said, lost by 1 point to the Giants. I think this game is going to be a completely different story for Dallas. Dallas looked very sloppy between Andy Dalton throwing 2 picks and Zeke fumbling twice. They just didn't look very good. I think this game, as I said, is going to be different. They're playing against a worse team on both sides of the ball in Washington. I think Andy Dalton and Zeke are both going to redeem themselves. And, I'd expect this to be a low-scoring game. Washington's defense is probably going to do pretty good. They looked pretty promising against the Giants last week. I think they'll have a pretty good game this week too, but they're not going to do enough to get the win. I think Cowboys take this one 17-10. Next game, we got the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Texans. The Packers, Sunday afternoon, got embarrassed by the Bucs, 38-10. Texans, on the other hand, lost a nail-biter to the Titans in OT, where it really did look like they had the game secured in the final 2 minutes, minute and a half. I think this is going to be one of the easiest picks of the week. I don't see a way Aaron Rodgers loses 2 weeks in a row, especially not to a team like the Texans. And I don't see the Texans having another great performance as they did last week. The Texans still only have 1 win up to this point, but they did play really well last week. They just ran into Derrick Henry. So they looked really good. I don't see it happening again this week. The Packers' defense is far better than Tennessee's. I think Rodgers is going to come back. 3 touchdown performance after a sloppy game against Tampa. Packers win this one 34-23. Next game, we have the Lions and the Falcons. Lions, of course, coming off an astounding offensive performance to the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew did not look on the money, but we'll get into that later. Falcons, on the other hand, beat out the Vikings with ease. Julio Jones made his return, had a big day. Same with Todd Gurley. And I think this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. We got 2 really good offenses here. And I think Atlanta, at least this time, will get the better of Detroit. I expect 2 touchdowns from Julio. Gurley's probably going to put up 150 on the ground. For the Lions, I think Stafford's going to have another great game just like he did last week. But I think for this game, unlike the Jaguars game, it'll be close, and the Atlanta defense will step up in crunch time. Atlanta's going to win a close one here, 37-28. Next game, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. These are, of course, 2 undefeated teams going at it. Steelers, as we said, beat down on the Browns. As we said also with the Titans, they beat out the Texans in overtime. I think this is going to be a very good game that's going to come down to the wire, so this will be a great game to watch if you can. Steelers haven't really played a great football team yet, even though they are undefeated. I really haven't seen them play against solid football team. I think this is going to be their toughest challenge as of yet, and I think both teams are going to show out offensively. Specifically, if we're going to talk for each team, Chase Claypool I expect for the Steelers once again, and Derrick Henry for the Titans. Who else? Similar to Atlanta and Detroit, I think this game is going to come down to which defense can step up and get some stops, and I just don't see anyone on the Steelers defense having an answer to both Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown at the same time. We saw the Texans had no answer. Basically, every team the Titans have played has had absolutely no answer for those two. And I think the Steelers will be no different. I think the Titans are going to win yet another close game back-to-back weeks. Titans win this one 31-26 off of 2 touchdowns, I'd expect, from Derrick Henry. Next game we got is the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Seahawks coming off their bye week. Cardinals, as we said, beat down on Dallas, who is severely injured. And I think although Arizona has looked really good, even against Dallas, against the Jets, they look good, but I don't think they're going to be able to hang with Russell Wilson in that Seattle offense. I'd expect an absolute field day from the Seahawks this week. I think if we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball, Bobby Wagner and the Seattle defense is going to stuff the run and stop all air attack that Arizona has to offer. Overall, this game is not even going to be close. Seattle's going to stay undefeated. Arizona takes yet another loss, and Seattle takes this one 34-16. Next game we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Another really easy game to call here. Chiefs coming off a Monday night win over the Buffalo Bills. Denver just beat out Cam Newton and the Patriots off of 6 field goals, which we spoke about in yesterday's episode, so go check that out. Denver still full of injuries on their roster on both sides of the ball. Still no Von Miller, A.J. Boye, Jarrell Casey. And then if you want to talk on the offense, still no Courtland Sutton, who's easily their best receiver and could be a top 15, even top 10 receiver in this league if he plays to his full potential with the right quarterback. So I expect an absolute blowout this week. I'm calling 4 touchdowns from Mahomes this week. That's right, you heard that. 4 touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes this week. Broncos, I think this week they're actually going to remember how to score a touchdown because, of course, they had 6 field goals, but they're not even going to come close this week. Chiefs going to win this one 41-13 in an absolute blowout. Next game we've got is the Jaguars and the Chargers. Jaguars, as we spoke about, lost to the Lions. Chargers had a bye week last week, and although both of these teams haven't been the best, I don't expect either Austin Eckler or Kyle Allen to play this week for the Chargers, which I think is going to be a huge loss for them. And although Justin Herbert has looked really good as a rookie, and he's been like the closest guy at rookie QB to Joe Burrow, he's obviously the number 1 guy right now, but Herbert's a pretty close second. I just think without those 2 guys, he really doesn't stand a chance. I expect the Jaguars to take full advantage of these 2 guys not playing. I think Gardner Minshew, who had a really off day last week, going to come back, put up 2 touchdowns this week. If I had to say it, Keenan Cole's going to grab one. Maybe we'll see one from Chark or one of those other guys. But overall, Jaguars going to have a pretty solid game, bounce back from a tough loss last week, and win this one 24-10. Next game we've got is the 49ers and the New England Patriots. Niners got an upset win over the Rams last week that I really did not expect. Pats, on the other hand, lost to the Broncos in just an all-around sloppy game, especially for the offense. And I expect the Patriots to have continued struggles this week. I got to admit, the Niners looked really good last week. Jimmy G was on the money. George Kittle was on the money. Raheem Mostert on the money. Deebo Samuel had a phenomenal game. And I'd expect, as I said last week, 2 touchdowns from Kittle. I see Mostert putting one in this week as well. Niners going to win this one 27-16. No serious problems there. Next up, we got our Sunday night football game between the Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders. Bucs, as we spoke about, blew out the Packers on Sunday afternoon. Raiders had a bye week last week. And the Raiders, I got to say, have looked very solid coming into this week. I mean, they pulled off a big upset against the Chiefs. And Josh Jacobs has looked really good so far. Derek Carr hasn't been too bad either. Jason Witten has been a pretty big part of their offense. But they're playing against the most stacked team in the NFL. I just don't see a way the Raiders have any kind of success on either side of the ball. If you want to talk about offense, I think Brady and all his weapons that we talk about every week, I don't even have to say them anymore. They're going to dominate once again. And if we're going to talk about the Raiders' offense, which has looked pretty good, you got to think about guys like Levante David and Devin White just absolutely locking down Jason Pierre-Paul, too, if you want to talk on the D-line. And I think Josh Jacobs, he's going to have another good game, but he's not going to be able to win this whole game on his own. I think the defense is really going to be what lets down the Raiders this week as the Bucs win this one 37-20. And for our final game of the week, it's going to be our Monday night game between the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams. Bears, as we said, beat the Panthers out last week. Rams got upset by the Niners, and I really liked what I saw from the Bears defense. They've really held their own against every opponent they've faced, and I'd expect continued success from them on Monday. Nick Foles, I think, is going to continue to produce and put the ball in the end zone as he always does. Him, Jimmy Graham, and all those other guys on that offense are going to play really well. I think the Rams are definitely going to play better than they did last week, but I think they're going to get outplayed by the Bears. So overall, Rams, improvement this week, but Bears are just going to completely outmatch them. And I know a lot of people might think this is an upset call, but I don't think so. Bears win this one 30-27 in a nail-biter. And that's going to do it for our Week 7 predictions. I'll be back with you guys on Tuesday's episode where we do our daily news and our review. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.